All right, looks like we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Welcome back. I am just getting everything set up, so just give me just a moment, and then we will go from there. Our producer is not in yet, so I just wanted to make sure he was okay this morning. He's running a little bit behind today, so I was just making sure that he's all good. Usually there's somebody in the background who's managing the live stream while I'm on it, just because it helps me out tremendously just to have somebody else jumping in here. But I just wanted to make sure he's okay, so sorry about that for just a few minutes late. How's everybody doing? Welcome back to another stream. Got some stuff to talk about, some stuff to look at. Just getting in here and looking at a couple different ones. We've got the currency heat map pulled up. Let me see if I can do this really quick. So the heat map here, let's just jump into this one and see what's going on. Okay, so we've got the New Zealand moving the strongest today, and then we've got some weaker ones out there, such as the GBP. You've got the US dollar looking a little bit mixed, a little flat here on the yen, and then some strength actually coming in on the Swiss franc and mixed on the CAD. Aussie is a little bit negative here, and Euro is slightly positive. Okay, so that's sort of a checklist of things to look at for today so far. Before we get too far into the stream, let me know, guys, where are you tuning in from? Where are you guys watching the stream from? I'm curious just to see what you guys are up to, or where you're from, really. Dade says, welcome everyone from different parts of the world. Hope you're all doing great. Yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks very much for being here. Let me know where you guys are watching from. Yeah, so it seems like we've got some mixed sentiment here. Definitely seeing some pullbacks on the pound pairs, which is going to be very interesting to talk about. I want to talk about the pound pairs especially today. And also the other one seems to be the euro. So we'll take a look at the euro and the pound today, which are sort of diverging. You've got the euro looking pretty strong while the pound comes down hard today. So let's look at it. Look at that, all the different places. We've got South Africa, Uganda, London, Thailand, Nigeria, India, the Philippines, Malaysia, Belgium, North Florida. What's up, Andrew? Kenya, Bosnia. Cool. Always cool to see where people are tuning in from. We've got a wide arrangement of different people and places. So very, very cool to see. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch over to the chart view. We'll see what's going on here in terms of the charts. I did want to start with Euro USD. We will get to pound dollar, which is probably one of the more interesting ones that I want to cover today. And then we will go from there. So taking a look here at Euro USD on the daily chart. So let me just get my bearings here right. So, okay. So we had a nice little uptrend here in the last several weeks on the euro. We've had a nice bullish push, and then we sort of, we fell out of that upward range, and we've kind of back and forth a little bit. What we saw yesterday, a very steep sell-off, and we're actually seeing a rebound off of that level of support that we mentioned actually yesterday on stream on the Euro USD. We said probably headed down to this level, and then probably a bounce from that point. You can kind of see we've been making that move, and there we go. Hey, Miles, how you doing, man? Cool. Yeah, Miles is in the building. You guys, we're all good. Could you close that door too, Miles, just all the way?
Sorry, I didn't realize we're online.
You're all good, man. Yeah, so okay, everything is all set now. Cool. All right, so yeah, so with the euro, looking at this, we did taper out. We topped out around 1.215, like we talked about. You know, price found some resistance. We actually put out a couple clips about this, and sure enough, price did fall. We are currently just sort of halted here at 1.206, it seems like, just sort of altering back and forth at this little consolidation zone. The next point, though, I would say is that if price breaks to the downside, if we see more sell pressure on the euro, that next target area, I would say, is a move down to 1.2. It's a nice round number there. You can see there's 1.2 on the right side of the screen. And so if price were to really sell off, probably a move down to that point. So just keeping an eye on that, watching out for a move down lower to that point. So That's where I would say price is probably headed if we see more sell side. But again, it's kind of just in a limbo effect. It's sort of back and forth right now, where you've got some sellers up in this region. You've got some clear interest by the sell side up at that point. And from here, you're just trying to see, okay, well, if price either breaks above and continues, that's one move, or if price breaks lower, probably a move down to these. So these are two target zones for me right now, looking at the euro. Now, if you're bearish on the US dollar, if you think it's going to make its move higher, a bigger move might be looking for something like this. Looking for that break, that pullback, and that continuation up to 1.235, which of course was the high back in 2020. You can see back here, formed a nice little high there. Actually, no, that was January of 2021. I thought that was December for some reason. But we made a high there of right around 1.235 on Euro USD. Looking at that 4-hour chart, right at the start of 2021, we've since had a very bearish pullback on the higher time frames, and then finally, now we're at where we're currently looking at, where we've got some bearishness on the US dollar, which could cause Euro USD to break higher. So again, just going to be a matter of waiting on this one. This is not a currency pair right now that I'm super interested in trading, because when it comes to the euro, I'm not super interested in the euro. And when it comes to the US dollar, I'm also not super interested in that either, right? So you've kind of got some just mixed sentiment. You've got, the US dollar sort of bearish recently. We've had a high level of inflation, and the Fed has been sort of hesitant to raise rates. So I'm not like overly bullish on the dollar right now. And then the euro also, I think, although it's had some improvements, I'm still not like super convinced until we see the numbers from Europe that look really promising. So for now, I'm pretty bearish on both. So if anything, if I'm looking to trade this currency pair, which I probably wouldn't, it'd be more range bound than anything. Selling highs, buying lows, things like that. Okay. With that said, let's move on to GBP USD. We'll pull up the pound and take a look at what this guy is up to. So the pound dollar did a very interesting move in the last 24 hours. So we ran all the way up to this point that we've talked about here, this level 1.415. We came right up to that zone and then sold off almost immediately right back down to 1.4. And check this out. Did we actually hit 1.4? I don't think we did. We just barely missed 1.4 on this pullback right here. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit. So at 1.4, we barely missed that level before already finding some demand in this region. So I think that there's a lot of people watching this zone as we pull back to it on the pound dollar, myself included. Should we see a move down to 1.4, I'm very interested in looking for bullish setups on the pound dollar, as I think that the pound has more upside. I think it should. We already said that at some point we think it's going to probably, I've said this on stream a couple times, probably retest this zone at some point here in 2021. But I even think that, this has the chance, strong probability of actually breaking higher and continuing in 2021. So that's my opinion on it. So when I see this pullback, I see this as a potential discount on the pound, either today or tomorrow, or maybe even going into next week. Should we get a tap down into this zone here, very, very pretty spot for me in my view. You've had lots of situations where you had sellers here, right? And then if price did break out nicely, found rejection, but a pullback to this point, very much interested for me, looking for that continuation higher, right? And I think that gives you some pretty decent risk to reward. So I will be watching for this trade setup myself. Let me give you this little right here. Bam. So let's say price pulls back to 1.4. Let's see if I can just move that up just a bit. Yeah, something around here, right? The cool thing here is it gives you a decent risk to reward where you can say, okay, well, maybe I risk 75 pips or so here for a potential to, if you trade it back to the high, that's 170 pips. If you trade an extension, you could have moves of 300 pips to the upside. So these are scenarios in which I think you get the best reward to risk. And ultimately as a trader, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to tell you guys, oh, this is absolutely going to do this, or oh, the market's going to do this. And just so you know, you guys, I'm not here to give signals. So I'm not a signal guy. I'm here to just share you my opinions and my thoughts. So please don't think, like, oh, on these streams, I'm just going to be telling you what to do with your money. Like, that is absolutely not what we're here for. I'm sharing my opinions, my analysis, and that's it. So with that pound dollar pulling back, like I said, I think that the cool thing, however, is that you do get some nice risk to reward here on this trade. So I don't know that this is going to work out. I'm saying that if it does pull back, I think that it's worth, in my view, risking a small amount here for that strong potential for a push higher on the pound dollar, lining up a few different factors. I want to look at this thing from a bigger picture as well and show you guys this. Let's look at the Fibonacci extension tool for a moment. So if I actually just I go over on TradingView here down to trend-based Fib extension. And if I go from this trend that started in September of 2020 to the high point here in February of this year, and then to the pullback point, which is right around here, I want to show you guys this. So if the trend really continues, right, we're looking at a daily chart, we're healthy, we're above the 200-day moving average, should we see this thing continue higher? I think that there's a good chance that we could probably target a nice little extension point on this trend. So here was the previous top, right? I don't know why it seems like it's a little bit, oh, there it is. Yeah. So if you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, well, where's the extension? If we say that this move even was just to do half of this distance, right? Half of this previous trend to the upside, if that trend was going to continue half that distance, that would bring us all the way up to 1.445. Right? That's a nice move. And if you were to catch that move, for example, if that was to play out, you're talking about 450 pips to the upside on the pound dollar if this trend was to continue. Now, if this trend was really to continue, if it was to do the same thing that it did in this time frame, again, you're talking about a complete move of all the way up to this point here, which, this is getting wild at this point. But if this was to happen, you're talking about over 1,000, over 1,200 pips, right? So this is just measuring, a distance of the previous time it moved, right? And saying, okay, well, if that happens again, you've got a drastic move to the upside that could occur. Now, I'm a little bit shorter term than that. That would be like a more of a long-term, almost like an investment, like a short-term investment kind of thing. But if you get some sort of move like that to the upside, you have that potential to really get going and continue past this high. And that's the big barrier. So the biggest barrier to that trend continuing is, of course, that 1.42 level that we keep mentioning, that barrier to the top of this trend. Because look, for example, at the previous time that we broke out of this trend, right? Here was a nice trend to the upside. We formed a high, price struggled back down. It made its way back up, and then it sort of hesitated, right? That's exactly what's happening right now. Hesitation towards the top. But then when we finally broke through, you could see we pretty much had a nice extension, a nice run up. And so that's where we're at with the pound dollar right now. We're looking at it and saying, hey, is the extension ready to go? Are we going to make that next push higher? And so that's what I'm watching for on the pound dollar. That's why I think the risk to reward here could be very much worth looking at. So that is what I've got on the pound dollar. You guys will move on to another currency pair. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments in the chat about pound dollar, what you think. Do you look at commercial COT numbers or non-commercial, says Amir. Amir, I look at non-commercials. So commercials are not necessarily speculating on the future price of the market. If you're a gold trader, which I guess we'll take a look at gold while we talk about this, XAU, USD pulled up. If you're a gold miner, right? Like, let's say you have a true business, like a real business. You're out in, I don't know, wherever they mine gold around the world, right? Let's say you have a company in Brazil and you mine gold, right? And they pull out gold out of the ground, right? It's part of their business, and they obviously they mine gold and then they sell gold. Well, if you're mining gold and the price of gold where you can sell it at the marketplace is changing all the time, that's not really good for your business. It's great if you buy gold, if you mine gold and the price is going up. But what if you're a gold miner and the price is going down? That's hurtful to your business, right? So instead of taking that risk of saying, well, I'm mining gold, but the price is going down and it's hurting my business, what if I just hedged my position in gold? So for every ounce of gold that I get out of the ground, maybe I just buy a short contract on the price of gold on the market. And what that does is it effectively is a purposeful hedge on your business. So that is what I'm talking about when I talk about when you see commercial, right, on the COT reports, it's businesses that don't care about the price. If it goes up, great. If it goes down, great. They've hedged both ways so that their business is not hurt by the rising and falling prices of commodities. So that is what I mean by that when I say commercial. So non-commercials, however, are people who are speculating. They have some level of investment firm or fund or leveraged hedge funds, things like that. So I watch the non-commercials because they actually care about where the price goes. They are more, impacted by trying to predict the proper, future prices. So that's what I'm trying to say when I say non-commercial and commercial in the COT reports. Okay. So with that said, looking at gold here, while we're on the topic, we've got price pulling back to some levels of support. You do have support in this region, but I want to caution the bulls out there. We've talked about this a few times. Keep an eye on the fact that this thing is still on the daily chart, still fairly bearish. You've still got bearish structure here in this market. Lower highs being formed. You've got times where price tried to rally, sold off strongly. And again, although this is looking good, look at this scenario here, right? Looks kind of similar to what we see right now. So be cautious as a bull, in my view, on gold, because you never know, if the trend stays strong, this rally up to this point could be the start to the next, push lower. So that is what I would caution the bulls out there to look out for is, on the daily chart, you've got some nice downward structure. So, and we're dangerously close to where that level would be should sellers get strong enough to push us lower, right? So just be mindful of that as you push up into this level. You are contending with longer term sellers who may have interest in selling gold. Gold on the COT report, by the way, from the non-commercial perspective, has not been super impressive. There's been a decrease or a selling more of gold than anything throughout this time, and still actually not a ton of buying in this region. So I'm cautious with gold as a buyer. I'm not a bear either. Like, I'm not going out and selling gold every day or shorting it or anything like that. But I'm just saying, be cautious on the long side because you're contending with some big players. Is this real time? Yes, it is. You are here with me live. Thanks for being here, and welcome to everybody in the chat. Shout out to all you guys who are here with me live right now. We've got 500 people in the chat around the world. Just thanks for being a part of what we do here. You guys being here, it is completely free what we do. It does, of course, it costs us money and time, and we've got a team of people that are behind what you guys see. So if you are enjoying the stream, you don't have to pay anything for it, but I would really much appreciate it if you leave a like down below on the content. It helps to support and keep us around here doing what we love, which is talking markets and sharing ideas with you guys all over the world. So do me a favor, smash that like button. Let's get some likes going on in the chat. That would be awesome. Ryan says, no, thank you, Nick. Appreciate you, Ryan. You're awesome. I see you here in the stream. And I notice a lot of you guys who stick around and come back every day to the streams. You guys are awesome. Shout out to me, says Undertrader. Shout out to you, Undertrader. Welcome, welcome. Hey, you guys, we need some more guests on the stream. Does anybody have ideas for guests? Preferably people who, I'm not looking for big names. I'm looking for quality people. If you know anybody who, and some people are big and quality, but I'm just saying, like, if you know anybody who is a good, maybe a good guest to have on the show, send them a message and tell them to message me. I'm looking for more people to come on and hang out with me. I was looking this morning, but I couldn't find anybody, or I didn't reach out to anybody. So if you have anybody, definitely invite them. You guys know, obviously you guys know the big people, but the big people have their own shows and they have their own things. They might come on as a guest once in a while, but I'm looking for people who might want to come on consistently. So if you know anybody, let me know. And Julie in the other room, Julie or Emily, can one of you guys just write down some of the recommendations that people have? That would be really helpful just to get that. And maybe even Miles, if you see anybody that looks interesting, that would be cool just so that we can try and get some more guests on here. That's kind of the goal, is to get you guys more content for free, obviously. So Yeah, appreciate all the recommendations, you guys. We'll try and see if we can reach out to some people. Okay, so that's gold. Gold, pretty much, like I said, concerningly looking like it may be towards the top of this range. And I say that, you know, hesitantly, you guys, because I own gold as of, I bought some gold like longer term, somewhere around here, I want to say. I bought some gold as just a portion of my portfolio. You guys know me as a trader, but I'm also, you know, longer term investor as well. I do most of my short term trading in Forex and most of my long term investing in the stock market and a little bit of crypto lately. So, well, I've had crypto for a long time, but I've just been more interested in crypto lately because it's been so moving, right? Does Elon Musk trade Forex? That's a great question. Maybe when no one's looking, he's trading Forex, but I don't think so. All right, so let's move on to something else. We will take a look real quick at USD Cad, see what's going on with the Canadian dollar this morning, see how they're doing up there just north of us. I guess really north of us. We're down in the south in Atlanta, but up there above us, the country there, we're taking a look at Canada today, which has been really rock star lately. They've had some really good numbers. Canada has been outperforming quite well. It may not look like it on this chart, right? However, this is actually the US versus Canada, right? So it's actually flipped. If you were to look at this, you can actually reverse this. Cool little tip for you guys in TradingView. If instead of USD CAD, if we did CAD USD, just to show you this, you can actually flip it, right? But the standard one is USD CAD. So we're looking at dollar against the CAD. The dollar is performing weaker while the CAD seems to be seriously outperforming. And so we've actually got to freshen this up because things are moving so fast on this currency pair that I think we got to just put in some new fresh levels. So let's do that right now. So we've got some resistance here, right? This level was a big barrier for sellers. We finally were able to really break that. And now any retest of that zone, by the way, you guys, that would be pretty sell heavy to me, especially when you got this nice little trend line here to the downside. You get some beautiful little sell structure there. So should price rally back on the dollar CAD, I'd be very interested. It does seem like there might be arguably a bottom in here. So we'll mark that as well, just for the sake of doing so. So let's mark this as our previous low, right? And really, you've got, that's the major pieces. We'll also just mark one other spot. And that is going to be this little dead cat bounce that we had. Okay, so price really gave an honest try right here, but you can see this is what they call a dead cat bounce. And to the newer guys and girls out there, a little bit of a weird, sounding name, especially since I have a cat and he's a really nice guy. But we don't want to talk about dead cats here. But the idea of a dead cat bounce is it is a very, it is a pattern or a concept of where, you get, a market that's moving lower and then it tries, but it's fairly quickly stunted. Right? It's like an ember of a fire that just gets pumped out really quick, right? So that's sort of a signal to buyers and sellers that, okay, buyers gave a try here, but it was very weak, right? It was not much of a try at all. We saw the spike up and then immediately sellers came in and pushed right through the lows. So when I'm looking at dollar CAD, you've got a lot of bearish structure here to contend with should we see a push higher. Let me also go ahead and draw a fib here. And we'll talk about this as well. So here's this. We'll take a look at the 4-hour chart as well, just to widen this view a bit. So a pullback, if you're really bearish on the dollar CAD, something like this, pull back to the 38.2, you could watch. But I think better so would be a pullback to that 61.8, especially if it lines up nicely with that downtrend line that we drew on the daily chart. So again, looking at that dollar CAD in terms of this downward structure, I think you got to move to 61.8. That could be very interesting. But again, right now, I'm not saying, oh, it's a buy up into that point. There might be some arguments for that. If you're a day trader, if short term, maybe you see the breakout, maybe you look for something on those lower time frames. For example, let's see, we don't want that. We want to move this here. So maybe you make the argument that, okay, we're pushing past some levels here, right? We've broken up higher. Maybe if you're a bull in dollar CAD, maybe we get something like this and a push up to that 38.2. I think one more level, very short term here to watch out for is this one here, right? So you've got this, but this, I'm not even going to mark it on the higher time frames because it's not super meaningful to me. We're looking at the 1 hour chart right now, but just be mindful of that area here. So let's back out. We'll take a look at the 4 hour chart one more time. The major levels that I see, like I said before, I am bearish on this currency pair, and I have been for a few months now, really been focused on being long biased on the Canadian dollar, as their numbers are really nice recently. Their unemployment last week was not great. However, I think it was just sort of a bump in the road compared to the rest of what they've been talking about, which is, they've been slowing the printing press. We've said it many times on the stream. As money is printed, it causes a currency to go down, right? The US has high inflation right now, and Canada has actually talked about slowing down their printing. What does that mean? Well, if this is the CAD and this is the US dollar, if they're printing this one way faster and they're printing this one slower, which would you rather own? Well, there's probably more to it. It's not just about inflation, but one of the main components to the value of currencies is how fast or slow they are printing that printing press. So when we're looking at the CAD, I would say that this one is more desirable than this one. So for me, that means short bias on the dollar, right? Sell and buy the CAD. So that is my opinion on this one. However, there is such a thing as price getting a bit overstretched to the downside. And it does seem like, we've been on this really strong sell pressure. If anything, I have no interest in buying or selling down here. For me, a pullback to a strong level, something like this or this, both of those look like good opportunities to try for a sell. As always, you guys know, this is just my opinion. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. These are just my thoughts and views on the market. Please be careful whenever you take a trade. So many people out there who are just gambling their money in Forex. Please don't be one of them. Play the slow and steady game. Play the conservative game. Be smart. Test things. Go through processes of building strategies and managing your risk properly. It's not fun. It's not sexy, but it's the only thing that I know that actually makes money long term. So with that said, is Cad Swiss a opportunity for a long? You know what? Let's take a look at Cad Swiss. And someone asked about gold. Hassan or Hussein, I'm not sure how to say your name, but we took a look at gold just a bit ago. So you can actually rewind the stream a bit and check it out there. Okay, so let's look at Cad Swiss. So we'll switch over to Cad Swiss. You guys already know, if you've been watching my videos recently, that this one has been a fairly kind currency pair to me recently. Let's actually look at what happened. So I actually ended up, I'm not logged into my broker, unfortunately. I don't want to show you guys all my details, but I did take a couple of trades here on Cad Swiss. You guys will see it in the video that's coming up. We had some resistance come in very strong at 0.75 that actually caused me to get out of the trade. So I was long on the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc right around here. Price, sorry, I took a trade somewhere around here, took another one here, and then took one here, I think. And all three of them ended up being nice, profitable trades. I ended up closing the first two somewhere on the way up, and then finally closed the other one right around here as price started rejecting. So as soon as we started to reject this 0.752 level, I got out of my Cad Swiss trade and moved on to other currency pairs. But I say that lightly because I actually ended up taking a loss yesterday on Aussie Dollar. So took a loss there, but it's okay. It's not all about winning every time. It's just about winning over time. So let's look at this a little bit closer. Is there a buying opportunity? Somebody asks about Cad Swiss. I'm not going to rush to it because this rejection on the higher time frame, right? You've got that 0.75 getting sold into pretty hard back here and seeing some initial reaction here. I'm just going to be cautious with Cad Swiss buying. I have no problem buying this thing again if it gives me a signal. But until then, there's just not a huge interest. I mean, arguably you could say, oh, here's a nice level of demand, and that is true. But again, after rejecting off of that top, I'm just going to play it slow. I'm going to wait for an opportunity that looks really good to me. Maybe we get something like this. We start to see the demand. I'd rather miss this move and watch for the break and retest than anything else, right? Seeing price break through this level could be a nice promising opportunity to look for continued push higher. But again, we also could see, Ivan actually was talking about this the other day, when you get this stretch move and then you get rejection, there's that possibility for price to continue lower after getting rejected hard like that. So I'm not going to rush to get in long on Cad Swiss. If anything, I'm looking for a pullback to some sort of major support, after a fair dip, or a breakout and looking for an opportunity to retest and go long with a nice stop loss placed somewhere in there. Does that make sense? So that's what we're looking for on Cad Swiss, or at least what I'm keeping an eye on this currency pair. Again, this one's been very good to me, so I'm just gonna play it patient and wait for another opportunity if it wants to set up. Otherwise, we will just go ahead and wait. Did I already do pound dollar? Yes, I did. Pound dollar was earlier on in the stream. Okay, so what about? We'll take a look at Aussie dollar, and I'll show you guys this loss that I took. So Aussie dollar. Let's look here. 4-hour chart. So, this one's gonna be a little frustrating to talk about, I'm not gonna lie. So I took a loss overnight on this currency pair. Let's look at this. So again, I'm not logged into my broker, but I'll you guys already know. If I take a loss, I'll tell you guys about it because it happens. So I took a trade. Oh, this is painful, you guys. Okay, so I took this trade right here, right? I went long on Aussie dollar, saying, okay, I think this thing rallies up. Ended up getting long, and I had a stop loss just underneath here. So you can see my stop loss fairly tight, right? Probably too tight. And I'll be the first one to admit whenever I do something wrong. So, I probably should have put my stop a bit further away, but I didn't want to take a huge risk on this trade. So I took a small risk. Right? I got long here. So I bought this market here. I said, okay, this thing looks good. It's coming down to a low point, and I think that it's worth the risk to reward. So I was shooting for something like, a push back to this previous high would be fantastic. Ended up getting stopped out fairly quickly there on the trade, which again, it's all right because lately I've had some pretty good winners. So my winners overall have definitely outweighed my losses lately. So that's pretty good. So when I look at this one, yeah, it's a little bit frustrating because it went against me, ended up tagging me out, and now it's bounced back. But again, what can you do? All you can do is move forward. When you make a mistake, just go with it, right? So I don't think it was necessarily like the dumbest stop loss placement ever, but it just wasn't the best either. And I ended up getting stopped out, took a small loss there, and it's all right because I'll find something else to look for today if there's anything setting up. So it might even be a good chance, honestly, to try again on Aussie dollar. So there might be, the other thing about stop losses is there's no shame in taking a stop loss and then just looking for another chance to try again if the trade makes sense. So that's what I'm looking for when I'm talking about Aussie dollar here. Joseph says, yeah, enter again. Very well may. I'll look for something maybe on the lower time frames to see if there's anything there, and then go, looking for it to see if I can get in. So my thought process with Aussie dollar is I do like this currency, the Aussie versus the US dollar. I like this currency cross a lot because the US, high inflation right now, concerns about everything, a lot of money printing, right? That causes the currency to tentatively go down. As opposed to the Australian dollar, their economy heavily based in trade, things going well for their economy, relatively speaking. They've had a really good run up in the last, 365 days. And so my goal is to try and be a part of it if it continues, right? I've had a lot of great trades on the Aussie in this time frame when we were having these great trends. Thought we were going to pull back and bounce right off this level. We still very well may, but I just, took a quick loss on that. Nick, I've been watching your videos for the past few months, and I like what you provide and the decent marketing for your services. I will be joining the private community these days. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Shady, for joining the live stream today, and glad to hear you might be joining us inside of the private group. That's what it's all about. We've got traders from all around the world, great different people, lots of great intelligent traders that I've met inside of the private group. I have conversations every day with some really cool people. So if you are interested in joining our private group, every trade that I take, even the embarrassing ones like this one, you will see inside of the group. So if you're looking for trade alerts and trade ideas like that, then it's inside of the group. There's a link down below in the description. And there's a promo code for you to get a discount if you're watching here with me live, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're at, there's a discount that you can use to join us inside of the group and get in for cheaper. So with that said, I want to invite you guys, make sure to join if you have any interest. Try it for a month. If you don't like it, it's no harm, no foul. It's like $45 with the discount, which is really not a lot. So I guess it depends where you are in the world. But for people in most of the first world countries, it's not too bad. Again, maybe in the future we'll find a way to make it more affordable to people in third world countries. I've had people in the past, request that there's some way for us to do that, where people in third world countries where it's more expensive to get them in for cheaper. That's something that maybe we'll talk about, maybe we'll think about. But for now, that's our only option is the discount code that you get there of the $5 off there. So definitely encourage you to give it a try and see if it's a fit for you. All right, let's do some more charts. Let's see what else we got. Look at that Aussie dollar starting to bounce right after tagging me out for a loss. That's just the name of the game sometimes, I guess. We'll move on to something else. So let's see. What about GBP JPY? What's the pound against the yen doing today? Look at that. Look at that. So price rallied right off of this retest. Beautiful continuation higher. A little bit of a sell pressure here early on in the New York / London session, and a little bit of pullback. But again, pound yen still chugging higher. It's at multi-year highs, or just about. You can see the last time we were this high was, what is that? 2018. So it's been a few years since we've been this high on the chart. You can see a lot of demand for the pound and, selling off of the yen. So when we look at this, if anything, I'm a little bit more on the long side. But at this point, I'm not willing to take a trade when it's, stretched like this. I'd be more interested, give me that pullback, and then maybe I'll be interested in looking for that continuation. So that's what I think on pound yen. What are the moving averages telling us? We've got the 50, the 100 here. Very beautiful uptrend here on the daily chart. This is the daily chart. So each one of these bars is one full day of trading. So you can see, you've got a long, healthy uptrend here on the pound dollar. What about the Aussie dollar? Just because we were just looking at it, I know we just jumped back here, but the Aussie dollar also has been fairly bullish on those moving averages. I just wanted to compare that really quick. We'll stick with GJ for now, and then we'll talk more about some of the other crosses in just a moment. So pound yen, where can we look for this pair in terms of a pullback? Let me look at the 4-hour chart with you guys, and we'll see if we can make some sense of this. Let me pull my moving averages off for just a moment, and we'll do this. So let's draw this fib from low to high. I like this pullback opportunity if we see it happen, something like a 50%. So you had this nice move starting, late April all the way up to here, right? If price pulls back and gives us a discount, maybe to something like this, there may be a good chance of continuation and you get some decent risk reward. And again, this is what it's all about for me in my trading. It's not about, always being right. Oh, it's going to come down and then it will go up. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm saying if the first statement is if this occurs, then, right, maybe there's a trade there that is worth the risk. Something where I say, okay, well, I'm going to take a long here. I've got my stop loss in place, risking 120 pips, for example. And if price rallies, even just to the previous high, you've got a nice 2-to-1, right? So you're saying if price comes down, if this scenario pops up into place, I think that risk would be worth. So you might still take a loss, but I'm saying that the risk, in my view, of jumping in here is worth the potential reward should you be right. Right? You've got that nice uptrend. And again, this is the name of the game. This is all we do as traders is we look for opportunities that weigh the odds somehow in our favor to make more than we lose. That's all we are trying to do. And it's not shiny because sometimes you take lots of losses in a row or you hold on to a losing trade and that's no fun, right? So it's not like it's magical, but we're just looking for opportunities that give us a better chance of making money over time than losing it. And that is all we can do as traders. We don't control where this price goes, right? At the end of the day, this thing could go all the way down here and that would stink if you were holding on to it. But again, if you just take a trade and you say, okay, well, I'm in here. Okay, I'm out. You still only took a small loss, even though the market could keep going down lower. Right, so that's the idea. Let's do one a little bit different. We'll take a look at SPX 500. taking a look at the US stock market here, and let's see what's going on with this today. So look at that, you guys. Just what we talked about the other day. So yesterday, was it yesterday? It was either yesterday. I think it was yesterday. We talked about this level here, right? And I said, if you're super bullish, maybe this is a chance to buy. But for me, I mentioned that the more attractive area of interest would be a pullback down to something like the 50% retracement on this move. Again, we went from the start of this trend. Whoops, let me not do that. The start of this trend back here. And we said all the way to the high of this move, right? And we said 50% of that brings us to a nice level of support and a nice healthy pullback on this move. And again, this is another scenario. So what you will usually see me doing, it's different for different people. I'm not by any means the best trader in the world, and I'm not the only one that's doing trading right. That's not the case, right? There's many ways to be successful at trading. When I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, I like pullbacks. So if I was to get long on the S&P for a trade, I would need a nice little pullback to something like a healthy retracement to 61.8 on this move here, or a 50% retracement on the overall trend, right? So that's what I'm looking at when I'm looking at the S&P. This move, by the way, that would be a move of about a 6% discount off of the highs. So a pretty nice little haircut there. But if you're talking about a bigger move, if you're talking about, there's your 10% mark. 10% is a big psychological pullback on stock markets, because that's sort of the first time where you're like, okay, actually, this is sort of a pullback. A real pullback is like 20%. So 20% is not until you get all the way down here, right? So 20% off the highs brings you all the way down to levels that we were in November of last year, which, although it sounds crazy, when the stock market really sells off, that can happen way quicker than you would think. An unhealthy retracement is 38%. That would be a fairly aggressive sell-off, which was, what was that? This on the S&P was 36, it looks like. Just about. Just about 36 on that previous drop. During the pandemic, we had some very aggressive sell pressure on the S&P 500. It was actually, you guys, when I'll never forget this the rest of my life, man. Like when I was in here doing these streams with you guys during this time. Actually, I don't know if I was doing streams at this time, but I was definitely like filming and making videos. Every time I would walk out to the lobby in my office, I would go out and the screen was just completely red. Like every stock that was on the stock market was just selling off. Like I remember one day I walked out into the kitchen area and there's a TV out there and I'm sitting there watching the TV and there's literally like, it's down 10%. You see Apple down 12%. Amazon down, 10%. All these ginormous companies that people love to buy going down dramatically. And so this is the case of market fear. And it doesn't happen all the time on a big scale, but it does happen frequently on a small scale. So you get like little blips, little times where people freak out in the markets, and they do produce some interesting opportunities, but they can be very scary to watch. Again, like I said, every day it seemed like, at this point, I think I started buying this dip at 20% of a dip. So I started buying stuff here. Yeah, right here. So right around here, that triggered me into buy mode. So I deposited money into my broker. I started buying things. The first stock that I bought on a discount was Google, which, as you guys are watching me right now here on YouTube, every cent, every dollar that our company makes on YouTube, half of it goes to YouTube, right? So if we make $1 in ad revenue, so does YouTube. And so, I'm kind of like, that's a really great business model. And YouTube is growing and growing and growing, right? So I basically, in a way, sort of work for YouTube. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just get some company stock. So I bought Google on the dip. And then, sure enough, I'm sitting there, I buy Google, and then it just keeps going. Let's actually, just for fun, we're going to look at Google today. And I want to show you guys this. So I bought Google stock roughly, what was the price? I can't remember the exact time I bought it at, but I bought it somewhere like it wasn't, let's say right here. let's say like right here. It was like roughly there, right? So the market was discounted. I bought Google once it was down like 15% and sure enough, as price continued lower, I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. Because at one point, the money that I put into Google was probably down around 20%. Now, you know, Google has been a absolute tank. It's just like trudging through the the wasteland. This thing just jumped, you know, from the lows here. Google is up 120%. So, you know, that was an investment that was at first very scary, but over time it paid off. And a lot of times I think even on the lower time frames, when we're talking about trading, something, let's look at a new one. We looked at euro dollar, pound dollar. Let's look at USD JPY for a moment. And let's say you're looking at this chart and you say, okay, I'm fundamentally bullish. I think that the dollar has more value than the yen. Let's say that that's your opinion. And this fear comes in. We can capitalize on that on a shorter time frame basis, which is kind of the cool part about trading. So if I'm looking at USD JPY and I'm saying, okay, dips, I like the idea of buying them, looking for opportunities that give me good risk to reward. That's what it's all about. We're looking for short-term panic and fear to potentially, you know, help us out for better trade setups. Dollar yen actually got a nice bounce here when we saw this big fat green candle. This was off of the CPI news. And then the initial reaction to CPI news being higher than expected is, okay, well, that means that the Fed might need to raise rates sooner, which, as we know, raising rates is bullish for a currency. So as I look at this, you know, dollar yen, if you're a bull on this currency pair, I think the biggest spot to look out for is we've got to break this zone here. So we'll just extend that out just a bit. Okay, so looking at dollar yen, look at the 4-hour chart. So this spot, I'm sure that there's a lot of people watching this because this spot is, you know, a couple times here where you've had sellers, and then price rose on news here and has paused since then. I think that you've got a very interesting argument for a potential bull flag. So a bull flag is a fairly simple pattern and it sounds and looks exactly right. You've got a flag pole, right? Well, so here's the pole. And then you've got the flag. And it is a very straightforward, simple concept. The idea is, okay, you get this big fat move up, very strong buying, lots of demand. You get this chop back and forth, and then you're waiting to see, can we get a proper break? So if you're looking at dollar yen, I think that there's some great opportunities should we see something like this. If we get a nice break above structure, this opportunity looks very, very rich to me in my view. Like, I think that setup is nice because you've got clear buyers, right? And then now we're paused, nice consolidation. We're thinking about it. If you start to see buyers get fresh again, right, get strong again, could lead to some nice breaks to the upside and continuations higher. And then the final thing to that is, let's talk about like, where could this price go? Where's the target for a move like that? Well, let's just scroll out and see if we can find some structure. And we already knew there was some up here, right? So you've got 110 as a potential target, or more like 111. You know, you get something like this set up here. And these are the moves that I'm looking for. It's not easy to catch them. They don't happen every day, but when they do, that's what it's all about. You're catching those nice big moves to the upside or downside with a nice risk reward. So let's say, how would you set that trade up? Let's say we do something like this. Let's say that we get something here. All right, so let's set this up. This is just a scenario, right? So this is a trade setup that I might be interested in myself. So let's say we're looking at dollar yen. We've identified that there's a flag here. Sorry, a pole here, a flag here, and we're saying, okay, it's paused. If price breaks up, if we see demand rush in on this currency pair, let's look for that pullback. And here's where we set our idea here. So a pullback to what was resistance now arguably is going to hold as support. That's the idea, at least. We target something all the way up here, and then we put our risk just underneath this structure. beautiful risk to reward. I mean, that's a 4-to-1. If that trade really went well, you could have, if this move really went well, you could have some great upside relative to the risk that you took. And again, I say it again and again, that's what it's all about. Risking small for high potential big moves in the market. Because when this thing runs, a lot of times we've talked about this on stream as well. We've said a lot of times people don't take advantage of the big trends because they close out their trades very quickly, right? You really wanted that whole move and then people take profit right here because they're like, oh, I don't want to lose my profits, right? You get in, let's say you get in, and then you're sitting there, you're like, oh, well, it's not moving. I'm just going to close out my profit. And then it does this, right? You don't want to miss that move. You want to be a part of that move. That's how we make money. If we're going to make it at all, we've got to hold on to the big wins. At least that's how I trade. As you guys know, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing my opinions here. So you're just listening to some guy rant. So take it as you will. But when I look at this, I'm saying if I'm going to make money, I've got to catch the big move. I've got to see it really, really run. So if we see something like this, nice breakout of consolidation, pull back here, I like that opportunity. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? Chat, let me know in the comments or the chat box. I'm just curious to see what you guys have to say. Are you bullish on dollar yen? Are you bearish? You think it's coming down? Because I will say, to be fair with you guys, there's also the other side of this, right? There's also the other side. If it breaks down, if we start to see downward structure, the inverse applies. You could see something like this. And there's another trade setup. Again, this is just constructing scenarios in which we risk as small as we can to make as much as we can, right? That's the name of the game. So here it is. On the flip side, let's say that, because we're at the bottom of this range right now, right? You can see price towards the bottom there. If we get a nice red candle, nice strong red candle that shows, strength to the downside, then you get something retracing here. Give us that pullback opportunity. Look for something like this. Move down to 108.35. Does that make sense? What do you guys think? Some people agree. Some people disagree. Looks like most people agree. That's good. Foodgasm disagrees. What are you having for lunch today, Foodgasm? Prefer the sell setup on UJ? Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. This is not really, this is just more of a lesson than anything or idea for dollar yen today. But I just wanted to see what you guys thought. So with that said, you guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up. But before I go, I do want to remind you guys, if you're looking for a community, if you're looking for a chat room, if you're looking for trade alerts and ideas and webinars and coaching, if you want more of this stuff, if you like my trading style, if you want to work closer to myself, join us inside of the private group. There's a link down below in the description and a promo code for you guys here watching live. You get a discount for being here with me and supporting the content. I want to thank you guys for being here with me. And like I said, I hope to see some of you guys inside of the private group, and shout out to our friends who are already in there, the VIP members who watch these streams as well. Shout out to you guys. Thanks for being a part of it and supporting what we do. So with that said, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here for today's stream. Make sure to tune back in the future. We do these Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. US Eastern. Sometimes we have guests on. Today there's no guest, unfortunately, but we will see if we can get some for maybe tomorrow or next month. Next week. Jasveer says one more Foodgasm pun. I don't know if I have one off the top of my head. I'll have to think of it and get back to you on the next stream. Thank you guys so much for being here. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you back next time.